Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in. Okay, Ken
I
Deans.
know, Zena, this is so exciting. He's such a titan of event production with big companies like Live Nation and AEG and Golden Voice and productions like Coachella and Stagecoach. And
I
he's
know the
been doing
big
this for
ones.
so long.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited to meet him. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. It's interesting. You were saying earlier that I seem vulnerable when I talk about live events because I have more
Yeah.
experience in film and TV. And you're absolutely right. Like I feel I'm like super excited to talk to him and hear his thoughts.
It's a whole different scene. You
Yeah.
have, with film production, I mean, a production can last for 6 months. You can have voiceovers. You can have different, you can reshoot a scene. In live event production. You have all this planning for a year or years, and then the show is a one-time event.
Yeah. There's no reshoot.
Yeah, it's critical that
Yeah.
that everything work, and I think that that's one of the challenges that integrating renewable energy and batteries and sustainability into event production.
Yeah.
It's a different scene.
Yeah, totally. I can see the crossovers between live event and film and TV in terms of like the planning and some of the, operations behind the
Hmm.
scenes. Some of the technologies probably different, but you're right. I mean, it's that the time frame and the ability for reshoots versus
Yeah.
not. I think that's like critical.
And I think the other thing that I've always been aware of is you do all this planning and you have, one day, 3 days to make all your money back
Right.
in terms of event production, live event.
Right.
Versus again, film is a different go to market strategy or go to market
That's a
with
good point.
film, right? So you can recoup your money over a different time period.
Right.
Hence why it's important that when Madonna's on stage, power's on.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't really afford to mess that up.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you get immediate bad press on social media and probably, you risk not having festival goers next year or big talent sign up for your festival the next year,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
detrimental.
So yeah, I mean, Ken's an icon in the industry in event production, and so yeah, looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, everybody, and thanks for joining us today on the tie-in. We're speaking to Ken Deans from KD Productions, and he's been instrumental in bringing innovation and sustainability to productions such as Coachella, Stagecoach, and many other large global event productions. And we're super pumped to speak with you today, Ken. And please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey around innovation and sustainability.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be here. We're I've been doing this now for 30 plus years, and my journey towards sustainability started right around 2004 when we were trying to get a show with Jack Johnson at our amphitheater in Portland. And we got sent this writer from Jack's management, what was our level of sustainability. So we had to answer this questionnaire. Were we composting? Were we recycling? How much garbage were we putting in? What was our carbon footprint? Um, and I really hadn't thought that much about it until I started reading through it. And then I started making the phone calls. It's like, how do I do this? Um, I found out it wasn't extraordinarily difficult to do it. At the time, the difference was cost.
Hmm.
And so all of a sudden, our 19-cent beer cup was now going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 29 cents. So, we had to start. But when you look at things like beer, where you've got a 72% margin anyway, you're going, oh, okay, well, I can do this and it's really not going to kill me.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of technology in the beginning where the cups would melt and all sorts of things. And we started learning. And one of the things that I kept looking at as we were going through the whole process was, we're buying a lot of gas and diesel.
Yeah.
And, you know, back, even as early as the early 2000s, the equipment was still ancient. And so you'd fire it up and big black smoke would come out. This is before DEF, before a clean air diesel and all the different things that they were working on. And it kept bothering me that there wasn't a better solution. I couldn't find a solar solution that was compatible with what we were doing that would make any kind of a difference or dent, no matter what the cost actually at the time. So I just kind of let it go. And then I got a call, I believe it was in 2016. I do a lot of consulting on mergers and acquisitions. And so one of my agencies called me and said, hey, we would like you to speak to this company about battery solutions for large scale events. And I went, awesome. It's like, wow, I really want to get into this. Let's do it. So we got on the call, and it's a single blind. I don't know who they are. They know everything about me. And we get through the call. At the end of the call, one of the persons on the call said, we really want to continue this conversation. In fact, we would like to hire you as a consultant to help us direct this investment that we've made in these two battery companies. Would you be amicable to do that? And I said, 100%. So we got approval from my agency, and I found out the company was Stanley Black and Decker.
Yep.
And they had made an investment in Portable Electric, and was it Moxie?
Like FreeWire.
FreeWire.
Yeah, it was FreeWire. Yeah.
FreeWire, a company out of Oakland.
Yeah.
And so I went up to Portland and met with them at their Stanley headquarters for industrial.
Corey Klein.
Yeah, with Corey and Ricardo.
Yeah.
And I met a pretty rough crowd of executives up there that were all 100% only focused on construction.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want to know about newfangled things. We don't even know why we're doing this. And I'm going, well, there's a big rental market for it. I can tell you why you're doing this, and I can show you why you're doing this. And then I was able to go to, so I'm contracted to AEG Golden Voice for most of the year. I was able to go to them and convince them that I wanted to do a test.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do a proof of concept of battery solar power and how we could get rid of diesel generators, light towers, all these different things that we're using, and not only make not just the sustainability case, but make a financial case as well.
Had you considered incorporating batteries before that phone call, or was this just something that was a bit more in the background, but you were still bothered by the diesel and the emissions and toxic particulates also that are on the construction or event construction site, I guess?
So I'd been trying to figure out how to do something. I just didn't know what. I'm not an electrical engineer. So I didn't know what the best thing was. I talked to one of my neighbors is a solar contractor. And I talked to him and he said, well, you could do this, this, and this, but it's really for household. And he goes, I don't know, it's not really portable. It's not really there yet. And so when I got that phone call, it was like, oh my gosh, here's the opportunity. Here's the way to open the door and say, look, this stuff actually works and we can make it happen. So we identified um, we identified three options. One of the options was the environmental monitoring cans that we have around the site. Part of for Coachella and Stagecoach, we have to monitor sound and dust that we produce around the site into the neighborhood. So we had been using a light tower to power those cans. So that was taking 28 gallons of diesel a day, running 24/7, running 31 days.
Measuring an environmental monitoring station.
Yeah, yeah. And so it just seemed like this total oxymoron that we're just using this most inefficient diesel motor, to power these cans that are supposed to monitor the environment.
Right.
So we put a 2K portable electric battery with 2 solar panels on the roof, and it didn't go below 98% for the whole month.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're talking, it was so ridiculous. We're talking about these instruments that are pulling like 600 milliamps. I mean, it's really nothing. But we're using this diesel generator, and creating pollution and wasting money and fuel and human resources and equipment and everything down the line to do it. So now today, all of those cans are now being solar battery monitored.
Amazing.
So there's no more.
So saving 28 gallons a day of diesel.
Times 6.
Times
Times
6.
6.
Yeah, times 31. And the labor to fill it every day.
Yeah.
So I mean it's really phenomenal. And then we were doing the same thing, although we're using Honda 2K generators that were gasoline that had to be filled 3 times a night because the tanks weren't big enough for our light towers in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of those are on battery. And we're now using, so in the truck stop, we're now using batteries to power the offices. So we have these batteries that are, I have to double check on the amperage, but they're in like a U-Haul 5x8 trailer.
Okay. With solar?
We didn't even put solar on one of the offices this year, and it got down to 48% for the month.
Wow, so you ran a worksite trailer, you mean?
Yeah.
With air conditioning off of a big battery in a cargo trailer, cargo van.
Yeah. Yes. And didn't even put the solar up.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, but we did use solar for the rest of it. But it's the technology of the batteries is evolving rapidly. And as I look at what's going on with the inverters and how they're getting much more efficient, we're now starting to see that there's some endless possibility. The big issue we still have now is convincing an artist to let us use a battery instead of a diesel generator on the stage. However, um, we are certainly looking at expanding those programs, not only to some of the smaller stages where the artists don't maybe have as big a voice, and we may have the bigger voice and can convince them it'll be fine. Also to the food and beverage,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can stop running diesel generators for, all of the cold containers. It's I can see it. I can see it rapidly changing, that within the next 3 to 5 years, um, we'll have more battery solar than we will diesel for sure. And it's something that, for me, I've always been, as early as adopter as I can be. Um, right, uh, just before the pandemic, I bought a hydrogen car.
Oh, nice.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I love it, but the infrastructure is awful.
Yeah.
So, I'm in negotiations with Toyota to take it back. Um, but in the meantime, I did a ton of research, and I now own a Kia EV6,
Yep. Excellent.
which I got the wind long range. So, it's in California weather, I'm getting about 320 out of a charge.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. So, but in Washington weather, it's like 220.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I get.
Yeah. So it's all of these things we're still learning. Um, but as we head towards creating a better environment, I'm happy to be part of the experiment. And this is something that's been important to me for a long, long time. And it will continue to be. And it's something that, as a driving force for me, it's I want to be able to leave this planet knowing that the future it's going to be intact for my kids and possible grandkids.
Yeah. Yeah. I am curious. I just find you know, the logistics and the sort of operations of these large festivals just super interesting. And I'm curious from your point of view, um, like when you're planning, these large festivals, like how how are the conversations with other folks, other staff, or whoever, when you're thinking about kind of incorporating these batteries or setting up an innovation hub or something to test for the next year or whatever. How does that go?
Well, the good news for me is I'm in an environment that allows me to experiment. And if I can and AEG has a very large sustainability sector in globally in the company. We're less than like 3% of AEG global. So, and AEG Live controls, almost 1,000 venues globally. So, we're not the major part of the company. Um, However, um, they do believe in science. They do believe in sustainability. So, when I want to bring something to them, I know the format it has to be. First, I have to show them, here's the problem.
Hmm.
And here's what we've been doing in the past to solve this problem. Um, and it works, but it's just purely a Band-Aid.
Hmm.
Here's what we can do to solve the problem ethically and with sustainability. And here's how we can do it within the economics that we need to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
And when I can show them all three of those different parts of the puzzle, they're like, okay, fine, go do it. And it's really been, I've the upper management of Golden Voice is phenomenal. As is the AEG people, their sustainability people are just terrific people. And they're there to do everything that they can do. So as long as you can show, all the pieces of the puzzle and show that you've thought it out and
Mm-hmm.
it's just not just a knee-jerk reaction, um, probably 10 times out of 10, I'm going to get a green light.
Yeah.
It's only when I don't have the answers, they'll just say, okay, you're not ready yet. Go back and get me this answer.
Mm-hmm.
If we can answer A, B, and C, then we can take a look at it.
How about the folks on the ground that are working with this equipment? Is it tough to convince them to use it? I remember, we'd met in 2018 when we had the volt stacks on site, and
Yeah.
and I remember the folks on the ground were resistant. At first, we'd put a Kubota, a 5K on a Kubota with a solar panel, and at first they were suspect, and then the next day they got used to it. Then the third day they were off and running, and they didn't even think about it. But there's always this resistance at the beginning that we've seen. How have you overcome some of that resistance, or what are those conversations like on the ground with the folks that have to implement these technologies?
Well, part of the reason it's I've overcome it is because we were successful in that first
Hmm.
round.
Yeah.
When they realized that the tipping point for that crew, what we call festival operations, was they were using Honda 5K generators, and we put that 5K battery in the back, which was just a little bit bigger, but not much, than the Honda. The difference for them was they could plug in two chop saws
Hmm.
and turn them on, and it didn't blow a fuse. They kept having to reset fuses on the Honda if they forgot, and one guy turned on a saw when another saw was running at the same time because it had a voltage surge, which the Honda couldn't handle, and the battery didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
It was a non-issue to the battery. So, this is where, once they started understanding the physics of it and the different dynamics on how it worked, it became really easy for them to do it. When in the truck stop, when instead of using road construction light towers to light it up, we used the standalone night spiders, and we had to trench to run the cable to it, but they didn't have to come fill up our light towers, and they still don't. So we're still using that same kind of scenario in the truck stop. So, that just saves labor and time where, they have to go to the traditional light towers that we have to use in disparate areas so far. Now, the nice thing is because of what we did in 2018, Herc, which is the new Hertz heavy equipment rental company, has excuse me, has purchased several different iterations of light towers. Some are just standalone plug-in, some are solar, some are hybrid. They have these cubes that when we can put them in a remote place, and they will only use 24 gallons of diesel for the entire month. It's like a Prius light tower.
Yeah, hybrid light tower.
Yeah. So I mean, it's actually, it spawned this whole iteration of different ideas to do what you can do with different types of generation. And I'm really proud of what we've done with the light towers, because pretty much we don't have any of the old style anymore. You've seen Allman and Generac have all like took notice of everything, and I'd like to think that we were a part of that. So they're now starting to look at what they're doing and go, oh, well, we need to have this, this, and this, and we don't necessarily need to have a light tower running all day for a guard to plug in his phone. And they've made different options. And so, it's really impressive to see that something that, well, Mark, you and I were both a part of and looking at back and even though that was, 6-7 years ago, the evolution has just been phenomenal.
Yeah. Are there you mentioned earlier the smaller stages might have some battery. How's that working? Are you finding success there? Are there any other
Well,
applications?
we are, and it's just, now that people are starting to see that it is possible,
Hmm.
now it's, um, some of the larger generator companies have still been resistant, um, because it means a whole new investment.
Yeah.
And that's something that, they're just not prepared to do yet,
Hmm.
because, they've got equipment they can amortize over another decade.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things that, basically, um, it needs to be production driven. So you change, it's not like, okay, here's what you have. Well, we don't want that. Here's what we want.
Hmm.
So I tell you what, we'll rent 2 of those from you, but we're going to go to this other company.
Yeah.
Um, I see that one of the large companies that we work is starting to notice.
Yeah.
And so we have a contractor we work with now called Overdrive,
I've heard of them.
uh, which is a very good friend of mine. 2 very good friend of mine have put it together, and they have an investment group behind them, and they're approaching it in that they don't have to own everything. In fact, the larger batteries are coming from another company called Moxion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, it just becomes, it's really becoming a community, which is awesome.
Hmm.
So it's no one's getting super jealous of the other one. It's like, hey, there's enough to go around. If we make this push together, then I mean, as with portable electric, it's like you made the push, and so it's like, so you're the saran wrap of batteries.
Kleenex of batteries.
The Kleenex of batteries. So it's like, it's the name that I use all the time. And it's like, no, we're not portable electric, but oh well, but they're the guys. And they go, we know.
Yeah.
Um,
It, is it like that in the sort of festival circuit as well? Like if one festival does something, the others will kind of like, oh, that's cool. We'll take it. We'll adopt it. Is that how it works? Is it more
it,
community
it
oriented?
it is. And we're starting to see push from the artist side as well, because, now, the narrative is as important as the content.
Hmm.
which is something that's taken some people a long time to wrap their heads around. So when the younger generations want to go see something, they want to know that there's, yeah, I like the music, yes, I like the person, but what else are they doing?
Yeah.
So you got Tyler, the creator, that's donating $1 million a year to the Chicago school district.
Right.
Um, everybody wants to know what everybody else is doing. We want to be able to tell the story at the Golden Voice AEG festivals that we're not only doing great music festivals, we're doing great responsible music festivals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're doing everything, whether it's from battery solar to the R cup, the reusable cups that we're using,
Mm-hmm.
um, and getting all the water stations that we provide now, um, eliminating as much single use as we can.
Mm-hmm.
It's important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important on a couple of levels, and I think that as we move forward in it, economically, it will be very important in the next 5 years.
Hey, listeners. If you have a story about innovation and sustainability in entertainment, please get in touch with us at tieinpodcast@gmail.com. That's TIEIN podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We may ask you to be a guest on the show. Yeah. It also kind of has an emotional element too. Like as a festival goer, it feels comfortable to be in that environment. I think it feels values aligned, sometimes. Well, for me, I'm sure other people kind of sense that, feel that as well. Have you picked up on any of that vibe?
I have, absolutely. From the consumer side of it. Um, not so much from the accounting side of it, but so and it's not that they're against it. But when you have the unique thing with the difference between the two major companies is AEG is privately held and Live Nation is publicly held.
Okay.
So Live Nation, while they have a great sustainability crew as well and want to do things, they're much more bound to the fiscal responsibilities that they have to their shareholders.
Right, right.
So, in those things, that's where I'm saying that, the story has to be tight.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to answer the questions. You have to be able to go in front of the shareholders, or you have to be able to go in front of the SEC
Mm-hmm.
and explain to them, why you're doing this with shareholder money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just greenwashing at this point now. It's happening. Um, can you? I just want to go to some of the bigger power needs. You touched on it earlier about the sort of the talent. I guess the performers are still not comfortable with having their larger stages powered by battery or hybrid. Can you speak to some of how you're approaching that in those discussions? Because when I look out at, I think, why not put a 20-foot container then with full batteries and hybridize it with a hydrogen generator, or something to that extent, because you still are running, I'm assuming, multiple big diesel generators behind each stage. Can you just shed a little light into the
Yeah.
behind the scenes?
So we're now up to 26 megs of diesel power.
Wow.
Wow.
And I think the fear is they don't know what. So if you're at the Coachella stage and it's being powered by three megawatt generators with 3 megawatt generators for backup.
Mhm.
What does that look like in the battery world?
40-foot containers full
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
batteries.
containers. Yeah. So as we look at that, and the sustainability of that, and it just at some point we need to prove it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's and I think that's something that's going to take maybe going to like a Pharrell Williams, something in the water, Brandy Carlisle. It's really going to one of the artists, Dave Matthews. Finding that artist that is willing to be part of a festival that is part of the larger narrative
Mhm.
that proves the case.
Mhm.
Um, and that may even be willing to have that diesel generator backup behind the batteries in case it all does fail.
Mhm.
But how good would it be to show the diesel generator with cobwebs on it?
Right. It didn't come on. Yeah.
It didn't come on. And maybe we just get the set crew to go dress up some cobwebs.
That's right.
Um, but I think the as we look at it, the problem is everyone is just so used to
Mhm.
using either CES or Greco, in these large scale scenarios that they're afraid to try something, and that's why I think it's going to take a special situation where we can just go and say, look, here it is, we're doing this, and it works.
Mhm.
Before COVID, um, uh, I had been put on hold for the SpaceX launch about doing a festival with Madonna at site. And we had actually talked about using all batteries,
Mhm.
not necessarily a series of Tesla walls, but something like that
Yeah.
to power the entire festival. Unfortunately, COVID hit and the festival didn't. And then when they did the launch, it was far less of a spectacular event than what was planned.
Mhm.
So my goal would be to find that certain person
Yeah.
that we could go into some place that had virtually no infrastructure and build it up and do it all 100% sustainable.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it's completely doable.
Mhm.
I feel
So
like the day is not that far away. I mean, I feel like this could happen.
no, I think it could happen. And I think one of the there's a couple of places. Um, I've been involved in building some venues, and I think that there's definitely some opportunities to go show it. And there's people I know that I could possibly approach. And this could even be it could be here in the Southwest, it could be up in the Northwest. And there's certainly enough people in the Northwest that would support it.
Yeah. I think you're inviting a challenge here. I think.
Well, I would love to invite a challenge, and this is something that, as I now have another position that I'm in this year. I'm the co-chair of amphitheaters, festivals, and fairgrounds for the International Association of Venue Managers.
Wow.
And all of these venues are looking to be better.
Mhm.
They're looking to be more sustainable. At Crypto Arena, they're now using some natural gas generators that go into solar that do some interesting combination things. And I think I really, I really want to get past um, the fringe of sustainability.
Yeah.
That it's not just a hippie thing, you know, this is a real thing for commerce, and we should be doing this because it works.
Yeah.
And we should be doing it because it's better, it's more cost effective, and you know, we can make it last forever if we do it right.
Hmm.
So now we're fighting, Southern California. Now we're fighting, Edison and all these different companies that really don't want us to do it. So, and the fuel companies.
Yeah, are you calculating a total cost of ownership or a total cost of saving on diesel? So at some point, this equipment is more expensive, and so you end up either paying more for it or there's some sort of balance there. Are you calculating your diesel offset? And is that something that are there other things that you're calculating in there to show counting that hey, this does make sense and it saves money?
Yeah, there is. And it started with our proof of concept that we did in 2018, where, I I created a spreadsheet that actually showed, so for the 10 light towers that I used to have at the truck stop, this is what it costs to fuel. This is what it costs for the light towers. This is what it costs for the labor to do it. This is what it costs for the Kubota, the fuel tank in the Kubota, the fuel, the delivery of the fuel, the storage tank for that fuel to go into the Kubota. I mean, you start looking at all of the different components it takes to keep a diesel generator going. Um, and even in 2018, I was able to show that, I was saving somewhere around $18,000 a month
Wow.
in the truck stop.
Wow. Wow. And then is there other stuff like in the mix of all those costs? Are there things like permits that just get easier to obtain because you don't have a storage tank of fuel sitting on the property?
Um, well, in our case, we have to have those permits anyway, but because we have heavy equipment and all sorts of different things. So that wasn't a factor, but yes, that could be part of the equation. Um, so far we haven't seen the building department or electrical department come out and make us permit the batteries in the same way.
Mhm.
We still have to permit the connections.
Mhm.
That's still a thing. Um, and it always should be. So um, I think it's really just looking at, when you add the entire cost of, yes, maybe a battery is costing more now, but you can't just look at the equipment to equipment. You've got to go deeper and show what the cost of running that equipment is. And that's where you find either you're neutral or you're having a savings.
Mhm.
So for me, even if we're getting just to neutral, it makes complete sense to get rid of the diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you don't have the other kind of side
Well,
effects like particulate matter people are breathing in, these kinds of things.
and for us at Coachella, it also includes we have to have housing for a person. We now have to feed that person.
Hmm.
So, it's there's a whole, you can get pretty deep into the weeds on what the exacting costs are for each product.
Hmm.
Um, so as you look at it, um, you just have to be able to make that case to the controller or the accounting people, and then you have to be able to show the reliability to the production side.
Yeah.
So, in the operation side. And that's something that we have absolutely been able to do.
Ken, we ask all our guests this same question here as we're looking at putting together to create a new playbook, right, with guiding principles around sustainability and entertainment. So this from all of our interviews, we're pulling this tidbits and these information from folks and their ideas. And so we were wondering, what would be the top 1 to 3 guiding principles for this playbook around implementing sustainability after the decade plus that you've been doing this for into the future for future folks working in entertainment? Big question.
It is a big question. Well, I'll answer. I just did an email on a project today, and the overarching question of the email was, what is our plan?
Yeah.
First and foremost, don't just say you want to replace a generator with a battery. Why? Where are you going to do it? What is it going to benefit? Are you able to maximize the efficiency of that battery across what you're doing? So, in other words, I don't want to see, a 20 amp battery, powering a 5-watt light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's plan it, really look at what your problems are, what your needs are, and really plan it out. What is your circuit? It's like build it like a circuit board, and that's just your power supply, but what is it going to?
Mm-hmm.
How are you maximizing it? What's your environment? Is it conducive to what you're wanting to do with the battery? So, if you're looking for something that you're going to be doing for a month inside a building where you don't have access to solar, how are you going to replenish the batteries? And is that going to be cost effective as well? Explain to people why you're doing it. And when you have your plan, show what the costs are. I mean, it's still super important. I once was at a dinner in New York with a person who is arguably the largest person in our side of the entertainment industry. And I was talking about doing some settlements, and he looked at me and goes, Ken, don't get so stressed out. And I go, oh, well, I go, but it's the money. He goes, well, it's not just about the money, Ken. It's all about the money. So, at a certain point, you've got to make sure that you're being responsible with the economics of your production as well. And you need to be able to show that to everybody. So for me, it's why, plan, and show the economic case as to why you're doing it. And as I say to people all the time, we won't ask a company to bid on something if A, we don't know, love, and trust them in the beginning, and we don't believe in we have to believe in their product from the beginning anyway. So you're not even being asked to the table in my world unless I know you can provide.
Mm-hmm.
So at that same point, it's got to be made to the vendor that, like, here's my world now. Here's the realities of it. Don't try and amortize your equipment over a year on my back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to amortize it over a reasonable amount of time. You need to have deep enough pockets to be part of this. Festivals take 3 to 8 years to break even. And so it's a tough slog to get a festival up and running. And not all of them survive.
Mhm.
Some of them go down in flames. I've been part of a group that reconstituted a festival that went bankrupt in the first year. And it's up and running now, but boy, it was tough those next 3 years bringing it back online.
Yeah.
So, there's real money out here, and and keep an eye on doing what's right, but understanding the economics of everything. It's still a business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my exclamation point would be it's still a business.
Boom.
Yeah, I love it. Um, I've got one more quick question, and Zena, I don't know if you have any other wrap up questions, but what innovation and what technology is exciting you the most right now? I mean, we spoke about a lot of different parts of the power infrastructure, but is there anything that you're seeing coming down the pike, or something that's really, really exciting and excites you on the technology side?
Well, two things. One, the evolution of the batteries and the inverters, because I've seen the capacities go way up from what originally was available. The other thing that I've seen lately, and I think it's still a ways away, but it's a sewage treatment plant
Hmm.
that is able in a sea container size is able to um, convert it into either drinkable water or fertilizer. It's able to take waste and recycle it into useful product. So and that's something that people still it right now it's really expensive, but it's something that was shown to me last year that I think is just super amazing.
Yeah.
So and we have 400 permanent restrooms that are on holding tanks at Coachella.
This is for the porta potties, though. You mean that?
No, we have 400 permanent bathrooms, permanent toilets that are regular flushing toilets. We assign 300 to women and 100 to men. And so, but we have three trucks that run 18 hours a day round trip, pumping the holding tanks, putting them into other holding tanks that are taken to waste disposal and then being recycled properly that way. But if there's a way to do it on site,
Yeah.
that would be amazing. So, I mean, it's a little bit away from power, but it's I love seeing technology and innovation moving forward. Um, you know, on the power side of it, our lighting is just going leaps and bounds into what we used to have to provide power for lighting. Everything is just sound is becoming more efficient.
Yeah.
So now we're starting to see the possibility of in sound of DC amplifiers. So, moving away from AC altogether. So, I think, I mean, I'm very excited about the future, and I think that we've got a lot of things that are going on. And the more that I see the batteries moving out to the site, I'm happier. And I feel proud of what we started in the beginning, and happy to see a whole new generation that are picking it up and moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that, you know, you can see it. You're an innovator. You're testing this stuff out. You're seeing how it works over time. Um, it's super inspiring. Thank you for your insights here and for sharing all of this with us. I really hope that folks can pick it up and learn, take it forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
And it is just so lovely to meet you and talk to you.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. It's like you guys are keeping the good word out there. So happy to help out however I can.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ken. And thanks for being an innovator and continuing to be an innovator and sharing that with the next generations of event producers.
Oh my gosh, I love that conversation with Ken.
Oh, that was so great. I could have just kept chatting with him and asking him more and more complex questions behind the scenes.
I bet he has tons of stories to tell.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for listening to these insights. We hope that you enjoy these kinds of conversations by the innovators who are integrating sustainability in entertainment.
Yeah, and we'd also love to give a big thank you to Kelly and Kelly for graciously lending us their podcasting studio, Aaliyah Kane for her amazing album art, and Peter Chapman for that incredible theme song.
Our awesome producer is Colin Miller. I'm Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
And thank you for joining us for the tie-in.
Until next time.